Hello creative friends, this is Joy. So here I wanted to show you how I did the jelly print backgrounds that I showed you in my previous video. So I just put on just a couple of dabs of paint, and these are chalk paints that I got, and I just use a brayer and brayer that on, but I kind of leave it mottled because I don't want it to be like perfect or blended or mixed or whatever. And then I put the paper on there and then pull it up, and you will see that it gives it a nice mottled look to the paper. And so yeah, and I just will do this like several different times with several different colors, so that way it gives me like some variety. And you have to be careful not to get too much, especially if you use a music note papers and book pages like I'm using, because you don't want to completely cover up. You want to still be able to see the text and stuff underneath. And so if you get too thick, the paint too thick, it'll completely cover it. And so that's one of the things that you gotta kind of watch for. So what I do is like, if you see, like I said, I'm using chalk paint, and here I'm going to use some bubble wrap to try to add, like I'm just showing you other ways that you can add more texture and stuff to these pages. But I don't do this to all the pages because I have a different way to add interest and texture to the pages, that is a lot easier, I think. So anyway, and here I have just a round, something from something. I don't even know what it came, remember what it came from, but I'm using it to add like circles to the other side of the paper. And I'm using a darker paint to add these circles to the other side. I don't know how well you can see that, but I think I do kind of show you there where you can see, the texture and stuff on the papers. And like I said, was saying, I'm using chalk paint, and what I do is I will use, like, I've got a couple shades of green and a couple shades of blue, and then I've got like a couple shades of gray. And so I will, and this is another way to add texture, is just stamping into the paint before you pull the print. And what I'll do is I will use like some of the tan and gray, tan or gray with the blue or the green to do kind of a model look, and then I'll go over the top with the opposite, which I'll show you that in a minute. And here I'm showing you where that's another way to get like some texture and stuff on your pages, is just stamping into the paint before you pull the print, which again, it's okay. I mean, I'm okay with these pages that I did, but I really like, what I did do here towards the end, which you'll see that. And I decided to just use another piece of paper to just roll off any excess on my brayer, which will end up being another piece of, printed paper that I can use. So here you see I used a little bit of a piece of cardboard to kind of add some texture to that paint on the other side, but it didn't really show up very well. And so then I'm like, well, I need, I'd like it to show up more. So I'm using this darker paint to stamp the cardboard in there so that I can stamp it on the page and it will actually show up more. So that's what I'm doing here. It really didn't show up real well when I pulled the print, so I just wanted it to be, more noticeable, I guess you could say. So that's it's another thing that you can do is, use cardboard, and you peel back, the top layer, and then you can use that. And here shows you where I stamped into the paint and pulled the print. And so I'm going to go ahead and then put some paint on here so I can try to clean up the plate because there seems to be a lot of stuff on there now. So I just put some paint down and just trying to pull up some of the, paint that's on there. And it gives me a somewhat of a mottled look there. And I did do both sides of these papers that I'm doing here, but I do not believe for the remainder of the papers I did both sides. I just would end up doing just one side. So here I'm just putting, paint down and lightly tapping, not really, putting, paint, rubbing my hand all over the back of it. Because again, you don't want to completely cover up what's on there. You just want to lightly get some. And here I'm lightly rubbing. So you see it's not pulling up all the paint, but it's pulling up some of the paint. So that way I'm getting, still can see some of the text and stuff underneath. And these here you can see, how they came out. So they look it looks different from when you just cover the plate with paint and pull it as to doing kind of modeled. And here I tried to add water to see if I could get that to activate and pull some of that paint up, but it didn't. It just made my paper stick to the plate and tear. So don't do that. Don't do what I do. Not a good idea just to spray water on there and think it's going to pull it up, because it will not. So here, again, I use this tan, and then I put some blue down. And then I, have that go over the plate, but I don't want to, again, mix it all. I just wanted it to have like a mottled look. And then I add my, put down my papers, but I only lightly, so it doesn't completely cover my pages. And then I do 2 more pages, and this is actually like how I ended up doing the rest of them. And this is how I did the ones that I showed you in one of my last video, all of the jelly printed papers that I did for backgrounds. And so what I did then is I took some green paint and I put that down with a little bit of gray paint, and then I rolled that across the jelly plate and covered that. And then I took and did lightly on those pages. And then I took the blue ones and I printed some of the green on there. And then you could see, I don't know how well you can see that, but I really like that much better, where I actually did some of the green on the papers with the blue. So here I'm going to do some green and some, tan here, or cream color. I'm going to roll that around, and then I'm going to, and this is actually how I did all those papers that I showed you in one of my last videos. And then I went over top of the blue, and you could see, if I can see you can see the green and the blue, and I much like that better. And then here I'm getting more green on these pages. And so yeah, that's what I did on all the others, and that way I've got nice backgrounds to work with. And then here I have the one where I cleaned off the brayer. And so here I'm just showing you the papers I have, and these are the ones where I stamped on the papers and stamped onto the jelly plate. And then here are the ones where I actually did the modeled look on the jelly plate, and really enjoyed doing those. So those, will be great backgrounds for doing anything in junk journals, or adding to my junk journals, or what have you. And here's some other papers that I did the same thing. So that is all of my jelly printed papers I did, and that's how I did the ones that I showed in my previous video. And so then here is how I store them. I just have this zipper storage where I put all the others in there, and now I'm adding these to it. to fill my stash, so I've got papers to work with for whenever I need them. So I thank you for stopping by and watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.